Welcome to SpaceDoc. I'm your SpaceDoc, Dr. James, a real-life planetary scientist, here to share my passion for space and the Star Trek universe. Today, in honor of Star Trek Lower Decks, which is currently airing its 5th and sadly final season, we're going to have a look at a collection of new Star Trek Lower Decks little chibi keychain figures, and also a look back at the Eaglemoss model of the USS Cerritos. So these little figures actually came as quite a surprise to me. I only found these by chance in my local Target in the collector's section. The section where you would find like Pokemon cards, Lorcana cards, baseball cards, that kind of thing, up near the cashier. So this was not in the toy section. This was not in the like Funko Pop, adult merch section in the back of most Targets. This was in a completely different spot, and you can imagine my surprise when I got there and saw Star Trek amongst the collection. And in particular, I'm really excited that this is Star Trek Lower Decks. I love Lower Decks. It is a wonderful show, and I hope you're all watching it. If you haven't watched it, go ahead and give it a shot. It is great. It's a lot of fun, but it has some really great Star Trek stories in it. So these little boxes, I'm actually going to unbox a bunch of them here on this channel. They are little chibi keychain action figures with a little bit of motion in them. And they cover much of the main cast. So you have Boimler, Tendi, Mariner, Badgie, Rutherford, Captain Freeman, and then apparently a rare golden Badgie. So I have no idea what I've got. We're going to actually open them here right now. Of course, the first one I got was Devana Tendi. So let's pop her out. And actually what I'll probably do is I'll take out all the figures and we'll look at them all together. I'm going to set Tendi aside and let's keep going. So I promise I don't normally butcher my boxes like I have to do right now. These things just are not coming open very easily. Thank goodness we got a Mariner. I was so worried we would not get the main character, my favorite character from the show. Oh my God. And the last box. Gosh, those boxes were annoying. Off camera, I opened up 2 others, including a Rutherford and another Tendi. So let's actually have a closer look at all these. So let's start with Mariner. So, as I mentioned, Mariner's my favorite character, voiced by the incomparable Tawny Newsome. Let's get a sense of scale here. So this figure is approximately 3 inches tall, something like 10 centimeters, 12, 14 centimeters tall. All these figures are similar in terms of their movement. So you have a solid head connected to a torso with arms that can freely dangle and move around. And then the legs are a single piece, but they're connected at a sort of flexible hinge joint in the middle. So it means that their legs can move a small amount, their arms can move a lot. They're then attached to a sort of keychain-like appendage at the end, which you can open up to attach to bags or keys or whatever. I'd be a little concerned about attaching this to keys. Maybe it's just me, but I tend to throw my keys around pretty hard. I worry that these might not be sturdy enough to survive frequent usage on keys. But let's get up close and personal now. So I'm holding Beckett very close to the camera. So you're going to see all sorts of detail. So this is clearly Ensign Mariner. There's only one pip there, not Lieutenant Junior grade per the most recent seasons. She has a nice little smirk. Paint job is pretty good. I like that they gave her rolled up sleeves, very signature Mariner. They even gave the Starfleet Delta boot print on the bottom of her boots, which is great. You know, for a figure that's only maybe $5, I can't remember exactly how much it cost, this is pretty good. Now let's set Mariner aside and move on with the cast. So next up we have Brad Boimler, who also gets a little curious smirk. Surprised they didn't give him his signature scream. Again, printing looks nice. There's a seam on all these that runs down the middle of the head. But, you know, for a cheap keychain, I'm not that worried about it. Again, an ensign. Movable legs, dangling arms. Looks great to me. So next, let's go with everyone's favorite Orion, Devon Attendi. She has, of course, the same movable arms and legs as everyone else. Printing on this one looks good. Wish they gave her a little bit more emotion in the face. Otherwise, I think it looks pretty good. I'll note that I got two attendees. Here they are side by side. And one of them has a little bit of a smudge on the cheek, a little black streak there. So these don't have perfect quality control. Let's just pretend it's a scar from her days as an Orion pirate. And of course, they also have their boots now in blue with the same Delta insignia. Next, Rutherford, Samantha Rutherford, also an ensign. This printing looks pretty good. Again, the seam going down the middle. It is what it is for a cheap keychain, but it looks pretty great. Nice job on the implant. Nice engineering yellow. And I appreciate the ever so slight smirk that they gave Rutherford. Now finally, let's go to the captain of the Cerritos, Captain Carol Freeman. So her printing looks great too. The seam actually on her hair is slightly less noticeable to me as I'm holding it up to the camera compared to some of the other figures. Maybe it's just chance. I really like the colors used for her hair and lips. I like purple. Of course, they gave her the 4 pips. She is the captain after all. The same mobility in the arms and the waist. Same awesome boot print. She looks pretty great. So one thing of note, even though I'm quite pleased with these little figures, they are not a replacement for an action figure or a proper figurine. And gosh, I would love if we got new fully articulated figures of the Lower Decks crew. But one place that's most evident is if you actually just try to stand these up. They do not want to stand. So it is basically impossible to get these guys to stand. There's the articulation in the waist, the arms, and then of course this big dangly keychain up at the top makes it so they really do not want to stay vertical. Oh my gosh. It's a miracle. But I guarantee I won't be able to get another one to stand next to him. These are so tricky. Yeah, I'm not even gonna try. I'll leave Rutherford standing at attention there. They're even kind of annoying if you are trying to prop them up against something, like the Cerritos back here. They're just so unbalanced that they want to fall over no matter what. So they really do want to be hung up by this keychain. But given I got Rutherford to stay put, I'll just have to leave my entire desk set up. I cannot move. So one thing you can note as you look at them sort of stacked up next to each other, they did scale them appropriately, height-wise. So for example, 10T is shorter than Rutherford. Rutherford has a bit larger body than some of the others. So here are all the figures together. So you can see I opened 7 boxes, got a couple duplicates. I did not get a badgie, let alone the gold badgie, and I'm okay with that. I honestly was more interested in these main recurring characters from the show. Honestly, for something that's pretty cheap, meant as a keychain, a small little token of one's love for Star Trek, these are pretty great. I'm so pleasantly surprised to find Star Trek Lower Decks merch out in the wild. And I think given the price point, these look as good as one could hope. Perhaps it's fitting that I got a couple duplicates, particularly of Mariner, given the arc of Season 5. Now, in addition to these keychains, I actually do have one other Star Trek Lower Decks character hanging around my apartment. I thought I'd take this opportunity to show them off as well. So let's get the rest of the cast and the crew to safety before I do. That's right. I've got a Moopsie. So this was a plush Moopsie that Master Replicas created not too long ago, maybe a year ago, maybe a few months ago. I know they're taking orders for another batch of these. This is an adorable, murderous creature introduced by Star Trek's Lower Decks. And I'm so happy that they made this plush. It is adorable. Perfectly well captured from the animation style of Lower Decks, including these nice, cute little pink paws. Officially licensed. Keep away from flames, so it's a lovely flammable Moopsie. But I thought I'd bring this guy out. Moopsies is just such a fun, creative creation of Star Trek Lower Decks. Well, but before Moopsie decides to suck her bones, I'm going to put him aside and go to the last thing I wanted to talk about in this video. And that's, of course, the USS Cerritos. So the Cerritos is, of course, the star ship of Star Trek Lower Decks, California class, NCC 75567. I love the design of the ship. It is so goofy, so very Star Trek, and such a perfect vessel for Star Trek Lower Decks. Now, I got this Eaglemoss model way back when Eaglemoss was still a thing, and they released the XL version. I believe they also released a regular size version. This is the XL, so it's quite large, quite massive. It's beautiful. I do think that this is the rendition of the first season version of the Cerritos. If you watch the show carefully, the ship does actually change slightly between the seasons. In particular, it gets more detailed as the season goes on. Things like the torpedo launchers, for example, get detail that would be recognizable as an actual torpedo launcher. The hull got a little bit more texturing than what's shown here. And there are some other details like escape pods and things that got added to the secondary hull and across the rest of the ship. But I'm still very happy that we have this from Eaglemoss. It's one of my favorites. And let's actually just go have a look at the ship from top to bottom. So the top is plastic. The metal is mostly on the bottom hull. With these lower deck ships, I really like how they capture the animated style of them. They look very much like they do on the show. Some nice dark grays. You can see also these grays have a little bit more blue and purple in them, especially when I can get them to catch the lighting, which is not typical for most traditional live action shows in Star Trek. They're usually more pure gray and silver or white or black. And I really like them using a lot more color in Lower Decks. It feels right for the animated show. I wouldn't be upset if they brought more color into the live action shows as well. The Cerritos, like all the California class ships, comes branded with a color representing its primary focus, matching the uniforms. So the Cerritos is an engineering ship, so it gets some yellow, like our Samantha and Rutherford over here. Some yellow branding that goes across the ship, top and bottom, which looks really great. It's a fun new addition to the way that Star Trek ships are branded. The phaser array comes in sort of a turquoisey blue, molded in detail. You have escape pods, which are also molded, and then windows, which I actually can't quite tell if the windows are molded. Yep, they are. And of course, the way I know that is like many Eaglemoss models and the fan home models, starting with the Titan A, there's always a little bit of a misalignment between the printed windows and the molded in windows. So you can see them here. You can see the light catching the indent from the window, and the windows don't really match up with it. You know, for a model that's this price, I should probably be more annoyed at it, but honestly, when it's far away, at arm's length, or sitting on a bookshelf, you really can't tell. So that's not my biggest gripe with this model. I think it's more egregious on some of the other Eaglemoss models. The registry is done here in a nice white. Of course, the California class has the registry printed on the back. There are a variety of different theories, including some from the show's creator, Mike McMahon, about why they're back there and why it's amusing. It's fun. So moving down to the bottom of the saucer, Again, lots of great detail. No complaints on here. The one major complaint I have about the Cerritos model from Eaglemoss is actually between the top and the bottom of the saucer, and it's at the edge. So if you look at the actual show, there are many decks of lights, of windows on the edge of the saucer, and they are completely absent in this model, and that's a letdown. Also, there's usually shuttle bays or ports here on these two gray regions at the edge of the ship that are absent in this model. There's some molded detail, but this is one of the things that is a letdown from this model, is this lack of windowing on the edge of the saucer. My guess it's because probably how they printed this thing, they probably printed from the top and from the bottom for the two sections and don't really have good access to print the sides. But if Fan Home, for example, were ever to redo the Cerritos, which I think they should, I would love to see all these windows down here. Now, why do I think Fan Home should do the Cerritos? Well, I mean, first and foremost, I love Lower Decks. I'll take any opportunity to get something new from Lower Decks. But as I said before, the ship actually did change quite a bit from Season 1 to Season 2. And there are things that could be captured in an updated molding details, updated prints. In the current season, the ship is downright beautiful. It has a very metallic sheen. It really looks great in the newest season. It'd be great for Fan Home to try to recreate that in a model that could be displayed at home. So let's go down to the engines via these lovely pylons with the cutouts. Very reliant feeling with the nacelles dropping down from the primary saucer. Very fun. The nacelles on the Cerritos are huge, very long. It's worth noting that on this model, the blue here is sort of a transparent or translucent plastic, so light can kind of catch that blue in interesting ways. The red at the front of the nacelles in the Bussard collectors is not plastic. That is painted detail, which is again one of the things that I wish could be updated in a future model. The paint looks totally fine. I just feel like a molded plastic, a bright red or orange molded plastic would make this model pop all that much more. The secondary hull with the deflector dish sits between the two nacelles. And again, this just gets to the humor of the design of the ship. You just have to imagine that for everyone to get to engineering and the shuttle bay and other things that are in this secondary hull, they have to take turbo lifts down through these pylons, through the middle of the nacelles, all the way to the secondary hull. It's the kind of goofy thing that is kind of to be expected in Star Trek, and the California class, the Cerritos, just really amplifies it. The front of the secondary hull has the main deflector, which is this beautiful like light blue and purple painted on applique. It is not transparent or translucent plastic. Again, something that maybe could be revisited in the future. So that is the Cerritos, the XL Cerritos from Eaglemoss. Now a few years old, but it's still one of the favorites in my collection. I love taking it out when Star Trek Lower Decks is airing. And I encourage everyone to go watch Season 5, the reported final season of Star Trek Lower Decks. I really, really, really hope that's not the last time we see the Cerritos or its crew. I would love if this show got picked up by another streaming service or got some sort of sequel on Paramount Plus, whether it's a live action show or one of these long tracks, a movie like the Section 31 movie coming out with Michelle Yeoh. I'm just not looking forward to this show ending. It is such a special show in the Star Trek universe. And with that, thanks to the Cerritos, our very gentle Moopsie, and the characters of Star Trek Lower Decks, I think that's it for this episode. Please let me know what you thought. If you were interested in seeing these other smaller figures, and if there's anything else from the Star Trek universe that you would be interested in seeing on my channel. This is a big experiment for me, so please let me know in the comments below what you think worked and didn't work. Be sure to like and subscribe. And with that, live long and prosper.